Myself, Ka.patel.
My name is Ka.patel.
We are going to make a presentation on the final project for computer system fundamentals, in which we are going to assemble a computer. Then after assembling the computer, we are going to create a RAID hard drive, and we are going to install Windows 10 inside that. In our group assignment project, what we are going to do is we are going to deassemble the computer and put it back. I mean, assemble the computer back in what position it was before. Now, for doing that, we have to follow a safety method called ESD. ESD stands for electrostatic discharge. That means you have to follow some safety tools in that for before opening the computer case. The three things are very important while dealing with the ESD. One is you should have like a electrostatic mat to put all computer parts on that mat. One is to have like a wristband to protect yourself from any charge, grounded charge. And the last is to protect the components. That means you have to put the components in an anti-static bag.
So we have two mats and one receipt which we have grounded over here, and you can clearly see that the case is now empty and we have removed all the components on the mat safely. And now we are going to introduce some of the components over here. So this is the motherboard, you can clearly see. This is the processor, this is the heatsink and the fan. We have two hard drives, one CD-ROM, and we also have four DDR RAMs over here and one power supply unit.
A little bit introduction about the motherboards. Now, first of all, what is a motherboard? Motherboard is actually a board in which different computer components get connected. There are like different types of boards or motherboards coming. Now, one is called the ATX. Usually ATX we use in the desktop computers. Then comes the micro ATX, which are used in the laptops. And the other is like a mini ITX, which have been used in the notebook computers nowadays. Now, the size of this board is like 12 inches by 9.6 inches. We can see clearly a white slot on the motherboard. This is the 24-pin power connector slot, which is used to give the power to the motherboard. Next to that, we can see like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 slots, which are the SATA slots, which are used to connect the SATA devices over here on the board. Then next to that, we can see the 4 slots for the RAM. So we can install the DDR RAM according to the motherboard documentation, that which RAM is supported on this slot, so we can put it over here. They are also called like random access memory, which is used for the secondary storage for the computers. Now, moving ahead, we have like two slots over here. One is the white slot and one is the blue slot. The white slot and the blue slot both are called the PCI slots. Now, this is the standard slot or the standard color slot for the PCI. They are used to install the graphic card, which gives power to your system, means your system can run faster before it was before. These are the two small slots of PCI, which are also called the PCI X1 slots. You can put the X1 cards inside that. Now, on the edge of the motherboard, you can see different ports over here. These ports can connect different input and output devices to the motherboard accordingly. You can also see a processor socket over here, in which you can put a processor according to the motherboard documentation. Not all the motherboard supports all the processor, so you have to always check the documentation that which board supports which processor first. We have a latch. Once we put the processor inside, we have to lock the latch so the processor doesn't come out when the system gets started. We have 4 PCI slots over here. The black one slots, they are the X1 slots. This is the standard PCI slot, and the blue one is the X16 slots. Moving ahead, we can see like number of cylindrical shapes on the boards. My finger is moving to show that. These are called the registers. Now, registers, what are the registers used for? Registers are used to store the information temporary, okay, from the processor and give it to the output devices. The other part is we have like round thing over here. This is called the CMOS battery, which we'll discuss later on. The other thing, we can see some lines drawn on the board. Now what are these lines called? These lines are buses. They carry information to the processor and retrieve the information which are processed from the processor to the output devices. This is processor. This very delicate part of computer. This is also called the heart of the computer, which processes all the information it got inside and gives to the output devices. Companies are there which manufactures this processors. One is called like Intel and the other one is like AMD. Now there are three different types of processors available in the market. One is called like 32-bit processor, one is called 64-bit processor, and one which is called hybrid, which is the combination of like x86 and x64 processor together, which means it can process like 32-bit operation and 64-bit operation. Now, things to consider while buying or upgrading a processor. There are a number of factors you have to take in the mind before upgrading or before buying a new processor. One is the clock speed of the processor, one is the processor speed, the third one is the socket and chipset, the fourth is like processor architecture, the fifth is the memory, the sixth is security, the seventh is like visualization, and the eighth is like integrated graphics support.
So this is a power supply unit. Here is the AC cord connector, and this is the switch, and here is the 24 pin connector, so we can connect this to the motherboard to give the power to the motherboard. And the main purpose of the power supply is to convert the AC power to DC power, and it gives the power accordingly to the all the devices what they needed. A number of things you need to consider when buying the PSU. The first one is the voltage rating, the fan inside the PCU, and the third one is the warranty and overall quality. So the power supply units are often victims of the power spikes, so that's why it is recommended to connect them with the UPS.
This is a hard drive. This is used to store the information permanently inside the computer. Now there are two types of storage devices. One is called the hard drive, the other one is called the RAM. Hard drive is also considered as the primary storage devices. Now a hard drive are of two types. One is HDD and one is the SSD. We are using a HDD over here, which is also called a magnetic hard drive, which is having the moving parts inside this, which is having like four main things inside this hard drive. One is called like platters, which are used to store the information. The second is the actuator. The third one is the spindle. And the fourth one is the read-write head, which reads or writes the data on the hard drive. Now we can see over here that we have like two slots connected to the hard drive. One is for the data cable slot and the other one is the power slot, which gives the power to the hard disk, and one is for storing or retrieving the information from the hard drive. Three interfaces used to connect the SATA hard drive. One is called like a SATA 1, which gives the speed of data transferring like 1.5 gigs per second. The other interface is called like SATA 2.0, which gives the speed of 3 gigs per second, and the SATA 3 interface comes with 6 gigs per second speed. This is called the CD drive, that is used to store information inside the CD. It can read and write both operations it can do on that. It consists of two slots over here. You can clearly see that one is for the power and the other one is for the data. This is called the heatsink cooler over here, and now this is made up of different types of fins over there, which are of metal like aluminum or copper. You can clearly see a silicone gel we have applied over here to cool down the processor, and the processor sits on the bottom of the fan. So in this way we are going to put the processor like that. It sits like that. Now the main function of this heatsink cooler is to remove the heat from the processor and gives the processor a better ability to perform better. Okay, now we have a cable over here to connect or to power this heatsink over here, which can be directly connected over here, which is having 4 pins. So we can put it over here and get it started. Called the RAM, or you can also say like random access memory. This is called the secondary storage device for the computers. That means the data in the RAM gets stored till the computer is powered on. Once the computer gets power off, the data gets away. It doesn't get stored permanently over here. Now there are like different types of RAM coming in the market, like DDR1, 2, 3, 4. So according to the need of your system or according to the user's requirement, you can put the RAM inside the slots. Now first of all, how to hold the RAM? The best way is to hold from the edges, so you don't damage the pins over here on the top, or you don't damage the registers over here. Now how to put the RAM inside the slot of the memory? First of all, you need to open the latches for the RAM over here. Then we'll put in a way that the notch over here matches the notch on the motherboard. So if the matching is not properly done, you can see a beep sound while booting or starting a PC.
So now we are going to assemble back PC back, and we have connected all the ESD safety methods. Like we have connected the mats to the ground and the V-step also. We have here toolkit, and we are going to connect first motherboard, and then after going to connect all the other components on the motherboard. So now we are going to fix the motherboard with the help of these screws. So you can see that we have fixed the motherboard in the case. Now we are going to put many other components, like we are going to put the CPU first. So we are going to place the CPU on the CPU slot. So now we are locking the CPU.
Now we are going to connect this fan to the motherboard. Plug this fan to the motherboard. Here you can see this one, right? And now we are going to connect this pin to this one.
Connect the RAMs in the slot of the RAM. The best way to approach for that is to hold from the edges, and then we'll make sure the latches are unlocked. So we'll match the notch of the RAM with the notch on the slot over here, and after that matching has been done, we'll just put a little bit pressure to lock it down. So now we can see that we have connected all the RAMs inside the slot, and we made sure the edges or the latches over here have been locked. If it has been not locked, then what will happen at the time of booting the system, there will be a beep sound, and it will say like the RAMs are not properly seated inside. So this is the case. We have to make sure that it doesn't happen like that.
Now we are going to connect the fan on the CPU case here. So firstly we'll put the screw on the fan. So now we are going to connect the power cable of the fan on the motherboard over here. Okay, so now we are connecting the hard drive, for the first hard drive on the motherboard with the help of the SATA cable. On the power cable we will connect later because we have not connected the PSU right now, so we have just connected through the SATA.
We are going to fix or we are going to install the second hard drive in the system. Now for that, first of all, we'll connect the data cable and the power cable on both of the ends. On one end we'll connect the data cable on the motherboard, and on the other end we'll connect the data cable on the hard drive. Same way we have to connect the power cable as well. Now we are going, once we have done like that, you can clearly see on the board over here that we have connected the data cable over here, and we can see on the hard drive too that we have connected that data cable on the hard drive too. Now we are going to put the screws and make it lock so it doesn't move. So this is the way we have locked the hard drive so it will not move. We'll put the another screw. You can see that we are locking the hard drive so it doesn't move when the system is in other direction. So this is the way we are locked down the hard drive. We're going to connect the CD drive to the system. So first of all, we'll take the CD drive and we'll put it in the case, and we'll make sure that both the data cables and the power cables are connected on the board with the CD drive. So this is the way we are fixing it. We'll lock down the yellow stuff that so the drive doesn't move. Now we are going to connect it with the power supply on the board and on the CD drive as well. We're going to install the power supply unit. We'll make sure that it fits perfectly, and we'll also make sure that we've connected the power connector on the board to give the power to all the components of the motherboard, as well as the components which are attached to the motherboard. So you can see the bunch of wires over here, so we have to put accordingly. Now we are going to put the power cables to the hard drives and the CD drives. So you can see that we are going to put the power cable of the one end of the power cable of the power supply unit to the hard drive, and we'll also connect one of the cable of the power supply unit to the second hard drive. So in this way we have connected the power supply, we have connected the data cable on the board. Now we are going to test that adequate amount of the power supply has been coming. So for that we'll connect this power supply cable to one of the tester over here, and it shows all the green lights so that adequate amount of the power is coming to the power supply unit. Now what we'll do is we'll disconnect this cable from this tester, and then we'll put it in the motherboard. We'll connect it with the motherboard. Now we have connected this power supply to the motherboard because we already checked that adequate amount of the power is coming in the tester. So we'll connect it on the slot on the power over the motherboard. You can see it clearly over here. Then we are going to close the chassis and we are going to start the system that it runs perfectly or not.
There are many troubleshooting of power supply unit. It can't be repaired, it needs to be replaced. If there is an error in the cable or the cable is broken, it needs to be replaced.
So now we have, after connecting the power supply to the motherboard, we have assembled the PC, and we can clearly see that there is a blue LED over here which shows that the machine is running with no problem at all. And now we are going to, first of all, we will go in the BIOS and we'll set one supervisor password over here. So right now you can see on the screen there is no supervisor password set. The purpose of doing is for the security of the system. So if we provide the password over here, nobody can authenticate or log inside that. And number two, we'll see that how we can reset the password by changing the jumper option from the board. So we'll do that. So first of all, we are going to set a supervisor password that we can remember. I'm writing here like DEMO, demo. So you can see now our supervisor password has been installed over here. Now we'll save that and we'll exit, and we'll see that it asks us for the password to enter into the system. So now the system is starting. And we can clearly see that it is asking us a password to unlock the system. So until and unless we don't provide the right password, the system will not get boot. So now we can clearly see on the screen that it is asking us for a password. Now, for example, if you forget the password, then what is the method to get enter inside the system is that you have to change the jumper setting, and you can, by changing the jumper setting, you can reset all the passwords in the system. So we'll do that, and for that we'll see inside a look on the motherboard too that we are going to change the jumper setting. But first of all, we are going to disconnect the system. We are going to power off the system, and then we'll change the jumper. We can see that the jumper position is right now on pin number 1 and 2. So we are going to take off that, and we are going to put it on position number 2 and 3 to reset all the passwords in the system. So you can see that we have done that. And now we'll start the system and check the password. All the passwords, supervisor password, has been reset or not. You can see that still there is a supervisor password installed over here on the security tab of the BIOS. So you can see that it has been installed. So now we are going to clear off that password from the maintenance tab. So we can move from the arrow keys to go inside the maintenance, and then we'll go for the option called like clear BIOS password. So it's going to clear all the BIOS passwords we have set. And now we can clearly see, going back to the security tab, that there is no supervisor set because we have already cleared it. So now we have cleared the supervisor password, and the next thing we are going to do is that we are going to change the jumper position to the original position, which was number 1 and 2. But first of all, we are going to save the changes over here. We'll exit this, then we'll power off the system and change the jumper position, and then we'll start the system. So now see, we are going to change the jumper position over here. So we change it to number 1 and 2 system, and we'll see that it doesn't have any password sets or doesn't ask for any other of the passwords over here. So it's not asking any of the passwords, so it's been clear, and we have set the jumper position to number 1 and 2. So to make a RAID volume or RAID hard drive over here, we need to have 2 hard drives for the system. We already had that 2 hard drives in the system installed, and now we are going to configure the RAID drive. Now once the system has been successfully started, we are going to make a RAID configuration over here. For that, we have to go inside the BIOS of the system. For that, we'll press the F2 key to enter into the BIOS. Once you are inside the BIOS, you can choose from, there are different options on the screen. So one is the main configuration and so on. So we'll go on the configuration tab, and we'll select over here SATA drives. And in the SATA drive, we'll select the option chip SATA mode. From that, we are going to take RAID. So it is going to, because we are making a RAID hard drive over here, so we have to choose this option first. If we have not set up the hard drive as a RAID, we cannot go inside the configuration of the RAID, or we cannot create the RAID volume over here.
So now we are going to create a RAID volume in the RAID configuration mode. So we are going to hit our menu, and we are going to press 1, so we can. So now we are going to give the name to the RAID. So it's group 8, and then we are going to select the RAID level. So there are different types of level in the RAID 0, 1, recovery, and so we are selecting the RAID 0 over here because the RAID 0 it allows all data to spread on the all disks, so that it doesn't get loose, and Windows also called RAID 0 as a striped volume. Now we have selecting RAID 0 because it writes all the data across over all the disks, so it doesn't get one drive cannot get all the data. RAID 0 is also known as the striped volume in the Windows, and the total capacity of RAID 0 is the capacity of both the drives. Creating RAID volume.
Ready.
After creating the RAID volume, we are going to install Windows 10 on the PC. We have already made the bootable pen drive of the Windows 10, so now we are going to install it. So after inserting pen drive, we are in the boot menu and we can see our pen drive. And now we are going to select the pen drive to be boot. So now we are going to install Windows 10 by clicking install now, and the setup is running. So we don't have the product key right now, so I'm just giving I don't have the product key, and we are going to select the Pro Education. So we are going to select Pro Education for our system, and so now we are going to install Windows 10 on our drive we have created on the RAID, and its capacity is 297, and we are going again. So it's loading all the files. So now we are in the final step in the Windows installation, and now the PC will restart here. So after installing the Windows, now it's getting ready.
Yep.
So now we are going to select region and some basic giving the PC username and password. So So now we are going to give the PC a name and setting up the password. It will ask for some basic account recovery questions, so we are going to fill it. So the account is setting up now, and we are expecting some basic. So we have completed the installation of Windows 10 on the RAID drive, and you can see over here that we have just only one drive, and its size is 297 GB. Many troubleshootings in installing Windows 10. You need to create a proper bootable device to install the Windows 10. If you have not created a proper bootable device, so you cannot install the Windows 10 on any hardware. The second troubleshooting is that if you don't have enough space to install Windows 10, you need to get enough hard drive or enough space to install the Windows 10.